Welcome back for our monthly foreclosure video blog. I'm Kara with the Kera team at Kera Williams Realty. This month we're going to be discussing the closing process of a foreclosure. So what happens after your home gets pre-accepted from the bank. Before that, we do have two quick announcements. The first one is there will be a client appreciation party happening in the next coming months. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. We'll be posting things on our Facebook page, in our newsletter, and we'll also be sending out letters, text messages, and some phone calls to inform you of those as well. We also, late in June, we just found out that VA, or our vendor resource management system that we use for foreclosures, is going to be starting to offer some seller financing options. So that'll be probably our July or August newsletter topic. Once we know a little bit more about that, we'll definitely share it with you. We're excited to be able to provide more for our clients in getting into foreclosed homes, because we know that's a hot market right now. So again, this month we're going to be talking about the closing process of foreclosures. So up to this point, we've talked about everything up to writing an offer and how to get your offer accepted. Now we're going to talk about what happens once your offer has been pre-accepted. Now, I use that term pre-accepted quite a bit when we're talking about foreclosures because it's not quite as black and white as a traditional sale. Typically with a traditional sale, you write an offer, they accept, reject, or counter it. If they accept it, you go under contract and the whole process of closing starts. With foreclosures, it's a little bit different. You send in your offer, they will pre-accept it, which means they will tell you, yes, we like your offer, we are going to entertain it. All the paperwork that you have sent them up to this point is almost like a verbal contract, because it doesn't mean much to them until they have their attorneys rewrite it. So again, you write them an offer, they will pre-accept the offer and let you know. After they've told you that they've pre-accepted your offer, they will rewrite the whole contract in layman's terms, black and white. Everything is exactly the same. It's just all typed out rather than anything being handwritten. And then they send it back to the buyer. The buyer looks at it, makes sure everything is exactly like it should be, signs it, they send it back to the seller signs it, and then we send it back to the agents, and at that point we have an fully executed contract. Now, it should still work the same way, but sometimes we run into about a 3-day lag because paperwork is being switched between one person and the other. So once they've pre-accepted your offer, expect about 24 hours for them to get you a unexecuted contract. That is the contract that their attorneys have written up that do not have any signatures, but outlines everything that was agreed upon in the pre-acceptance. Allow about 24 hours for that to happen. They send it back to the buyer. The buyer then has about 24 hours to return it back to the listing agent. Once the listing agent returns it back to the seller, they verify that the buyer has signed everywhere that they need to sign. They sign it and then they send it back. So that takes about another 24 hours. So a good thing to know also when you're looking at foreclosed properties on the MLS, it may say active, and when you call, they say, well, we have a pre-accepted offer. That's very common because they're in that 3-day limbo period of exchanging paperwork. So just be aware that that may happen, and that's why we always encourage you or your agents to contact the listing agent prior to a showing, just to make sure you know what status that particular home is in. Once you have the fully executed contract with everybody's signatures and initials on it, at that time is when your 7-day inspection time frame begins. So the 7 days begins at that time. You can have somebody come out, inspect the home, traditional inspectors, plumbers, foundation specialists, anybody that you want to come out, they can come out within that 7 days, do an inspection, and then you have another 5 days after that to provide them the report, or to negotiate or decide whether or not you want to stay within the deal after they've provided you the report. So let me re-say that a little bit better. Once you have an executed contract, the 7-day time frame of the inspection begins. Once you receive the report back, you will have 5 days to determine if you want to continue with the process, or a total of, I believe it's 12 days from the executed contract day. So be sure to remember that, because if you get to, day 14, 16, 18, you can still pull out of the offer, but then you kind of lose your earnest money. Remember, negotiations based on inspections are not a lot of times entertained. Repairs are not a lot of times awarded prior to a closing in the case of a foreclosure. So keep that in mind. Most of these homes are going to be sold as is, where is. So you want to be sure to get those inspections, look over the report, make sure it's something you still want to get into before moving forward with the process. Once you go through that, your lender will schedule an appraisal. Again, once that appraisal comes back, and if there's repairs or anything that's major, you can bring it up to the listing agent. More than likely, the home again is being sold as is, where is, and not very many or little to no repairs will be done or warranted prior to a closing on a foreclosure. So keep that in mind. One of the biggest things I want to share with you about the closing process of a foreclosure is there's a chance that they're going to get delayed. The closing time is going to get delayed, the closing date. So just please, when you're going into these, go in with kind of bent knees. Allow there to be a little bit of flexibility towards the end. If you want to prevent delays, the biggest thing you need to do is make sure that everything you send to the listing agent at the very beginning is accurate. Make sure your agent has spelt your name right. If you use your middle initial in your signature, it has to be on the paperwork. If your middle initial is on the paperwork and you're not signing it with your middle initial, take your middle initial out of the paperwork. Make sure your email address is accurate. Make sure any information of yours is accurate, because if we catch that right at the beginning before your offer is accepted, we can fix it, no problem. If we don't catch it until the very end, when we realize, we've done all the title, we've done all of the deed stuff, and we're finding out that there's maybe a misspelling or signatures aren't matching or whatever the case may be, it could delay it up to 2-3 weeks, sometimes even a month, just to redo all of the paperwork. So keep that in mind. Let me know if you have any questions. If there's a topic that you want to know more about that we have not yet covered, or something that we have covered that you want me to go more in depth with, feel free to reach out. Let me know. Call or text. My phone number is 605-415-6636. Or you can send me an email, Kera, that's Kera, @thekalerteam.com. I look forward to talking with you guys more, and have a great month.